The following episode contains or may contain spoilers. So if you're spoiler sensitive, maybe beware.
Yeah, you sensitive people.
Get out.
Oh, get in. John Ralphio and his sister.
Oh,
At
God.
the very last episode when he fakes his funeral. And they're like, don't be suspicious.
Yeah.
Be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. It's so funny.
Just kind of true. They don't look suspicious.
Why would he go to his own funerals? And then sing his way sneaking away? And I love how the guy that's giving the eulogy, he's like, John Ralphio?
Money, please.
Welcome to the Fantom Zone. 3 fans, 1 podcast, and a sea of comics. I'm Noah.
Kayla.
Jared.
Yeah, we are. Oh, I said that again. I just don't know what to say after we say our name.
You can just keep talking.
Fuck. All right, before obviously we get into the episode, we'll give a little news flash.
News time.
Keep you guys up to date on the current events.
Oh, God.
So, Patrick Wilson, the lovely Ocean Master.
I love Patrick Wilson.
The best part of that movie.
Yep. He has said that he's not going to be the villain in, okay, let's mouth this open. He's not going to be the villain for the sequel. He's still going to be Ocean Master.
Okay.
So there's a good chance he'll still be in it.
I think my heart skipped a beat.
Yeah, he said, and I quote from this is what he said. He's like, I don't know what the future holds for Orm. You can't kill him. He's too important to Arthur's journey. He's a foil to his character. It's like, yes, thank you.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, that's sort of the best news because
Exactly.
I actually wouldn't want him to be the main villain again, I don't think.
I agree.
As
Yeah.
long as he's there.
Yeah.
Whenever, I guess that's a weird thing to even think about, especially if you've seen the movie. It's like, why would he be the villain?
Yeah.
He's happy his mom's alive now.
Yeah, that's true.
And then in other news, Marvel wants an openly gay actor to lead the Eternals.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
The openly gay franchise they're planning on doing, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that the idea that is Icarus going to be, Icarus being the main Eternal, is he going to be?
People think that it might be him. It might be another character. They're not sure.
Oh,
They
that's a
have
good
not.
point, yeah.
It's very tight-lipped. Remember, this is a report. It's a rumor.
I
Yeah.
hope it's so gay. I hope that the character's like, Icarus has been replaced by Fierce.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
mean, I'm okay. It's cool, Marvel. Do it well,
Yeah.
but do not make it pandery.
That'll be
all I'll
hard
say.
not to do.
Well, I think that's what everyone that's looking for representation wants. They want it to be a good movie first, and then second, have a kick-ass female character, a kick-ass black lead, a kick-ass gay man. So, yeah, as long as the quality's good, I think if they focus there, it'll just naturally come.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Agreed.
I mean, I'm excited for it. It's a out of the left field that they're doing the Eternals. So
Yeah, we'll see. I know the Eternals pretty well. I hope it goes well. It is an interesting pick. If that movie is successful, they will have proved they can take. They
Anything.
can scrape anything off, the bottom of the birdcage, and they can make it a movie. So
yeah, I mean, they still have Adam Warlock to
Yeah.
flesh out because
I feel good
he's
about
been
Adam Warlock,
teased.
but yeah.
All right, and then in other news, I know a lot of people have heard about this, but I kind of want your guys' take or your reaction. Idris Elba is replacing Will Smith.
Oh, goddamn! You're telling me that they're going to have a better actor who's going to be better cast. Will Smith is a good actor, but he hasn't done, I think, very compelling work in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like him as Deadshot. I know a lot of people did, and to me personally, I've said this, and a lot of people think it's mean or whatever, but it's just my perspective on a character that I know and love. Is I just feel like it's Will Smith dressed as him. He didn't really bring anything different. I didn't really connect with the character. That's just my opinion.
I mean, I liked Will Smith as Deadshot, and to me, I get annoyed when people are recast. But I mean, I love Idris Elba, so I have no doubt that he'll knock the role out of the park. It's just...
But is he going to make a good Deadshot?
Well, I mean, it's kind of just like recasting Rhodey. The actor that replaced the original one was fantastic.
Yeah.
But
that is a good point.
I always kind of just get annoyed when people are recast. I mean, look at Batman.
I think Deadshot requires a certain nuance that Will Smith, I'm not saying couldn't, but I don't think he did bring to the table. I think Idris Elba is definitely capable of that level of nuance.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see it. I have a follow-up question. Is this a hard reboot? Do we know yet?
I think so.
So it's
really shaping up to be, because apparently there's also a rumor that like King Shark's going to be in it.
Yeah, I saw
like,
that one too.
All this stuff. So I'm like,
I prefer King Shark to Killer Croc.
Well, I prefer that compared to the Killer Croc that was in that movie.
I guess that's a good point.
Yeah.
But you cannot have both. You cannot have two
gigantic
animal hybrid
creatures.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Unless they fight, like just in the beginning or something.
I mean, we'll see. As long as Harley is still in it and Margot Robbie is still playing her, that's fine.
Just real quick, who character who should be in it that hasn't been in it? If you could pick one character that wasn't in the original Suicide Squad to be in it this time, who's it going to be?
I don't know.
You put me on the spot, man.
Yeah.
Really? I'll just say I want KG Beast.
Oh yeah,
I would love KG Beast.
He shot Robin in the head.
He can be the bad guy.
Sorry, Kayla.
Bring me KG Beast.
All right, we'll get into it now. This is a kind of mashup episode. So we had International Women's Day and Women's Month. Great time of the year. We also have Batman. 80th anniversary. We did a rewind review of him. Rewind review. I keep saying that wrong.
Rewind.
Shut
Love
up.
you.
Correct.
And so we decided that, to kind of, instead of talking about all the amazing women in comics, the writers, everything.
Or all the amazing Batman stuff.
Or that too, because we did talk about the Christopher Nolan, Dark Knight trilogy. You kind of mix it together. And all three of us mutually love the Batwomen, Batgirls. All of the Bat family
They're
women.
the most underrated characters.
And that's why we wanted to shine a light on them.
Exactly.
Ladies of the Bat.
Ladies of the Bat.
Yeah.
So yeah, we wanted to kind of dig into them, just put them up there where they should be. And, since his 1000th issue's coming up at Detective Comics, its 80th birthday, it wouldn't be Batman without the Batwomen and Batgirls.
And there are a few, because everybody talks about Robins. There's like 20 Robins, 22 Robins at this point. Baskin Robbins. There's more Robins than flavors at Baskin Robbins.
I was going to say, and the Batgirls have just as much, they should deserve just as much love as those Robins do.
Yeah.
Baskin Robbins. That's it. That's funny. So I mean, I think, so we can't not talk about Batwoman, and we've kind of touched on her before, and I guess we kind of get into her.
Well, that's cool, because it's like we're going to talk about mostly Batgirls, but let's talk about a Batwoman,
the matriarch.
Yeah. I mean, there's really only one. I mean,
you would think so.
Yeah.
There are two Batwomen. Both of them are named Catherine Kane.
So there's one.
There's two. One of them goes by Kathy, and one of them goes by Kate. And Kate is the one that we all know more now. But Kathy was here first. Catherine Kane was first established in 1956. And ironically, she was created as a love interest to Batman because there was this book at the time. What was it called? The Seduction of the Innocent, written by a psychiatrist who claimed that Batman and Robin were gay.
Whoa.
So
Homos.
DC responded by making Catherine Kane a love interest to Batman.
So their response to, oh, how dare you think this character could be gay?
They created a character basically to say, no homo.
Wow.
I do like, they're like, no gay person would ever have a fake girlfriend. That would never work, so it's real.
And she's weird. I think she was like his aunt by marriage or something like that. So, yeah.
Daenerys Targaryen.
It was strange.
What's really crazy is that Kathy Kane used to be, Kathy from the comic strip? Same one. Yeah.
that does not make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, so their answer was to be like, oh, it's also your aunt, by the way.
Well, I'm not sure, because that was kind of like a thing that they did for Kathy now, who she's still present in comics if you didn't know. But basically that was the original kind of conception of the character to combat that book that was circulating and got a lot of popularity at the time. And then I can't remember which creator it was, but in 1964, I believe it was, they started phasing out extended members of the Bat family, and Batwoman was cut from that as well as like, I think it was like what, Ace the Hound and like all of that stuff. Like a lot of his extended family was cut out.
Bat Butcher.
Get these women and animals out of these comics.
We're just focusing on the gritty old sad man now. And then she was eventually retconned out of existence with Crisis on Infinite Earth. So then it was like, no, there was never a Catherine Kane. Not only does she not in the comics anymore, she never existed.
The world got all explodey. Batwoman was, nobody knew who she was.
And then, she was gone for a long time.
Yeah.
And then Kate Kane came in 2006.
The current one.
Yeah, you know, the cool one that looks awesome.
Yes. No, she really is cool. And then she started operating in Gotham post Infinite Crisis to kind of fill the void that Batman left.
That's what I've always liked about her. Like, she didn't get Batman's permission. She just became
and
Batwoman.
She's wealthy as well, so that's obviously how she can afford all of her gadgets. And a lot of the times, I'll get to this a little bit later, she's connected to Bruce's family in some way. But yeah, no, this Kate Kane is the one that, you know, we're used to seeing now. And she's been in 2 things so far. Has Elseworld, was that what it's called? In the CW?
Yeah.
Has that happened already? Ruby Roses?
Yeah, that one happened already, and she's getting her own TV show.
Yeah, I tried to ignore everything going on with the CW, but that's neat, I guess.
Yeah, I like the way she looks. I thought she played a good Batwoman.
So bad, the
like
cowl and the really
you don't like
bad
it?
wig. No,
it's funny because characters, like even characters you like on CW, you're like, nah, I'm gonna skip it. If CW was like, we're doing a show and it's about you'd be like, okay, nah, it's okay.
Basically, I feel so bad. But anything the CW does, I'm just like, no.
Yeah, I mean, they have some good moments, like as far as like how some characters look.
Yeah.
I liked the Batwoman one only because it resembled a lot of like the new 52 Batwoman, and I was like, okay, it doesn't look like the heavy leather suit that they did with the Flash.
I feel like they went with like the most obvious casting choice, and it was just because she's high profile and has nothing to do with the character.
But you can't tell Noah that because Noah, the CW are like his moon pies. It's like he knows it's gross, pleasure. But he can't. He goes to a gas station. Gotta get that moon pie.
If you want a good interpretation on screen of Batwoman, watch Bad Blood.
Yeah. That is true.
Really good.
Yeah.
And she's awesome in it.
I was going to say, I mean, to what Jared said, like, I don't like the CW, but I can't help but not watch it.
Yeah.
Only because it's like, these are the characters. I want to see how bad they do this.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, Batwoman was fine. I mean, she could be better, but I agree with the casting choice. I don't feel like because she's a high profile queer woman,
she doesn't deserve
that she has to play a queer superhero. Like, I mean, that's
true.
not...
We forgot to mention her queeritude.
Yeah, well, I was going to mention that. And Jewish, too. Like, in the comics, Kate Kane, like, actively celebrates Hanukkah with her girlfriend, and so, I don't know. She's important for a lot of different reasons. And I know people with the casting of Ruby Rose were like, well, she's not Jewish, and even though she's part of the LGBT community, that was also a really important part of her identity that comic book fans really resonated with them, but... starting Kathy, she's not gone.
Oh, so she's back.
Yes. And the only
world
reason
unexploded.
she came back as this is where the kind of in the modern era with Kathy, this is where she came back and it was established that she was Bruce's aunt through marriage. And then she was widowed. They started fighting crime together and became his lover.
Because that's the natural progression.
Targaryen, and then she was killed, quote unquote. People that follow the Bat family pretty closely, or Nightwing like myself, realize that she appeared in Grayson actually temporarily. She's an agent for Spyro now.
Cool. Oh, that's right.
That's cool.
Yeah. I completely forgot about her.
I'm into it.
She's Agent Zero. So Kathy Kane is still around, guys. Kate Kane is too, which makes it so confusing.
I'm glad that she's got her own thing going on now, and she's not, she just kind of dropped the incest. She's gotten back, she's gotten into a profession that I could respect.
Well, and Kate Kane is connected to his family, Bruce's family, because that's his maternal cousin.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I knew that.
I did not know that. I always forget that for some reason, because they don't play it up or anything in the comic books or anything.
She's unto herself.
Yeah. And I mean, like, she first came back, her girlfriend when Kate became really popular was Renee Montoya.
The question.
Yes, basically. Renee Montoya, ex-cop, becomes the question.
Yep.
And their relationship was cute. I think the most famous relationship for Batwoman is with Maggie Sawyer, because that's the proposal that was in the comic. And then DC's kind of pushback on not allowing the creators to actually have the wedding in the comic caused that whole team to quit. Thus, downfall of Batwoman's amazing run.
Yeah. I mean, that run, not even just speaking on the fate, like judging a book by the cover.
Yeah.
The covers alone are stunning.
Her aesthetic is amazing.
It's so striking. And the character itself is it's really cool, because the new 52 Batwoman was heavily based on, I don't know how to say it, but the like urban legends, or like the mythology of Gotham, because it was like Killer Croc and like all these weird culty things, and that's who she was. And I liked that kind of weird supernatural detective aspect of her.
Very cool.
It was a departure. It was so different from Batman,
but
still in the Batman universe, it just expanded.
That's what's super special about Batwoman, especially in comparison to the other Batgirls, because the Batgirls interact very frequently with the main Batman family. Batwoman is she operates in the same place, but completely separate. And she, like, obviously they're in the same city, so they interact sometimes, but
yeah, she's like, I don't fucking need you guys.
I
got this. Leave
I
me
got
alone.
my own thing, her own enemies, her own stories. So
she's bright red hair. Did we mention that?
Oh yes.
It's just that it looks
Maybe
cool.
That's why they casted Ruby Red.
It could
oh my
be.
God.
That's certainly not true, but it could be.
The wig is so bad. Oh no, I could bash the CW all day, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of you read Rebirth, Batwoman. It was interesting. I think it was a step down from New 52.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's currently running, or if it is, it's coming out like way sporadically, because it only has, I believe, 2 trades out.
Really?
When it started with Rebirth, and most of the other trades have like, they're going on their 8th or 9th.
Well, I was going to say, to her credit, I'm not sure if she has a ongoing title just herself, but she's been appearing more and more frequently in Detective Comics and the Batman comics as well.
Yeah, in the Rebirth, she's a big part of Detective Comics, which I was glad that she had something, but I was like, it's so weird that you guys kind of just
I know, she's not gone, but she doesn't have her own story
Well,
anymore.
there's a bit of a trend, I think, that we're going to explore about, even though Rebirth has been really good, it maybe hasn't been so great for the Batgirls of the world.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Just real quick, because I'm actually not that familiar with Batwoman outside of some appearances and stuff like that, she basically has the fighting ability. I know she was like Special Forces or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. She's pretty tough. She doesn't appear that way aesthetically because of her gorgeous long hair. But yeah, I mean, and her father was an ex-colonel in the military, so she just,
And she's always been trained that way. Like, she's always had the fighting ability and the tactical skills.
She's got the gadgets. Like, gonna get some, like a boomerang around the neck.
Basically.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
She's Batwoman. She's the female version of Batman, essentially. I mean, I going head to, like, toe-to-toe, she has with Batman a few times, and Batman has always kind of gotten the upper hand like he usually does, but she can hold her own.
He's also in a different weight class, you know. He's a bigger dude. You know?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But also, what I think is cool is that she's like kind of not all the other Bat people. It seems like take an aspect of Batman and kind of focus on it and get better. Not totally, but that's often the case.
Yeah.
Whereas it seems like she's kind of as well rounded as Bruce.
Yeah.
That's a sense I get.
She is, and she's very much isolated, and she's always doing her own thing, except for in Detective Comics, which it's nice to see her like interact with people.
Yeah, exactly.
And not be so secluded. And that's a whole big story in that too. She's like, I don't work with a team, but she does now. So yeah, but I think that's it for Batwoman.
That's
really.
Batwoman.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, she's great. I love her so much.
Yeah, you can basically pick up Kate Kane in any iteration and be like, this is awesome.
And if it's Kathy, you know where she came from.
So let's talk about the Batgirls.
Yes.
Right, which would be a good like kind of sitcom, like Golden Girls, but it's Batgirls.
I would love that.
Yeah. But but they like punch people. So where should we begin? Should we begin with the
OP?
OG
Yes.
OP Barbara Gordon?
Yay.
Now, as Kayla sort of touched on this, she's not technically the first Batgirl.
Yeah.
Betty Kane. And it was released with Kathy Kane as again, like, so Robin's got a girlfriend too. It's not,
They're not gay.
He's
guys.
not homosexual either, guys. He's got his own girlfriend. Turns out, it's kind of lame. Like they kind of, because they were this, I don't know, what do you call it? Like, blatant kind of just plot device to make sure that, to ungay.
Yeah.
So Barbara Gordon, the obviously daughter of Commissioner Gordon, was
Our
really
fave
absolutely. It was a cool quote that I wanted to read here about her, like kind of coming into the scene and the contrast and how it was a big deal. And so I'd like to say a few words about the reaction some readers have to Batgirl. This is about, by the way, DC's response because people were just confused. They weren't pissed. They were just like, it's a different Batgirl. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to say a few words about the reaction some readers have to Batgirl. These are readers who remember Batwoman and the other Batgirls from years back. They were there because romance seemed to be needed in Batman's life. AKA
Yikes.
not the kind that sends you to hell. Okay.
Yeah.
But thanks to the big change and a foresighted editor, these hapless females are gone for good. In their place stands a girl who is a capable crime fighter, a far cry from Batwoman who constantly had to be rescued by Batman.
Yeah.
So what I just think Babs begins awesome because there's a concerted feminist intent behind her creation. It wasn't just like, oh, she slowly gets better. Like, okay, we screwed up by just making her like derivative.
Yeah.
Now she's going to be badass. So there's kind of three major iterations of Babs. I'm going to call it Batgirl, Oracle, and Batgirl again.
Okay? That is her journey.
So what's really cool about this is that she begins with being a mild-mannered librarian. She has a PhD in library sciences. Now, you're giggling, but let me tell you, do not underestimate the library sciences.
That Dewey Decimal System.
No,
guys.
well, librarianism, which is not a word, but any librarian would know that, it's really just more about the construction and organization of information. I had there's a small anecdote. I had a professor in history who would do a little plagiarism kind of thing. And in the first like day of class, I had like 3 classes with him. And he would say, look, along with my PhD in history, I also have a master's in library and information sciences. So if you can find it, I can find it.
Damn.
And then he threw a smoke capsule on the ground and smoked whenever he disappeared. Turned out he was Batgirl.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
No, but point being, no, don't underestimate the librarians. Moreover, it's going to be important later on because Barbara's big thing is technology and information.
She's basically an encyclopedia.
Absolutely. And there's this cool thing that they were trying to kind of make the contrast between her mild-mannered library bobbed hair and then being a badass superhero. But they were really laying the seeds for her own badassitude. She's going to be great later on. And also, it's cool because it kind of symbolizes the whole sort of feminist thing that was going on at the time. This mild-mannered librarian by day who's turning into this badass superhero. So she becomes this kind of third wheel in a good way to the Batman-Robin duo. She's really, really awesome. But the problem is, as Frank Miller starts kind of creating cool, gritty Batman stories, they find that the librarian fighter has less of
really
a space. And what's sad is that when there's a moment, which we all know is the Killing Joke, that's a turning page for Barbara Gordon. They don't really treat her too well. And apparently Alan Moore was deeply disappointed by the way that this turned out because they weren't like, we're doing this thing with this very important character. I want you guys to look this up, but it's a very sad moment because one of the editors told Alan after he said, proposed the story, said, yeah, fine, cripple the bitch. Yeah, look it up, but it's an important part of history, and it's important because of how she overcomes this. So if you don't know the story, and it really is an amazing story that Alan Moore wrote, Joker breaks into Barbara's house, shoots her in the stomach, hurting her spine. It actually doesn't sever it apparently, but paralyzing her. And this was all an attempt to drive Commissioner Gordon crazy,
which almost worked.
Almost worked, but he rises above and doesn't become a bad person. Now, the story would have ended there, but some writers, I think a guy, Ostrander or something like that, correct me if I'm wrong, the person that picks this up, in Suicide Squad, of all things, they, rather than just have her a dismissed character, they have Barbara paralyzed, but she slowly becomes this character using her technical abilities. Oracle.
I love Oracle.
Oracle's amazing.
Yep.
So there's a kind of transformation here from being a character that's understood as a victim and a plot point, for another male character, to a transcendent character who uses her abilities that she has left, and as a matter of fact, excels. She has a genius IQ to be a huge technological boon to not just Batman, but the entire DC universe. She's a hacker, an information broker, and if you needed info and you were a superhero, she was the one in your earpiece telling you like what to
you
do.
Needed to know.
Yeah. I wanted to take a step back just because I think this is hilarious. So she's a feminist character. There was some misogyny attached. Batgirl,
as it usually does.
Absolutely. Batgirl itself, well, I think why Batwoman in a name is probably a little better, is that like it's not just derivative of a man character, but they diminutize it with girl. And if you don't have a sense for why that's weird, it would be like when Catman debuted. He was like, "I'm Catman." It's like, "Oh, Catwoman boy, great to see you." Now I'm Catman. No, well, Catwoman boy is clearly what we'll be calling you forever. But despite that, she's definitely overcome. She's despite the sort of misogynistic places or something like that. So, so now we get to a place where it's still contentious today, which is that now, after years of being Oracle, after being, and also when she was in that chair, she was still a badass.
Yeah.
She, not only was she technologically, she had all these defenses, but she got really good at like upper body stuff, like Eskrima fighting and stuff like that, which Nightwing had a hand in helping her.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, she wasn't useless.
Yeah.
No.
At all. And never was she ever useless.
Not only was she not useless, she found a strength that no other character exemplified.
Yeah.
Which was kind of cool if you think about it, because it's like there are a lot of characters that jump around and throw batarangs now. And it's not bad by any means. There's plenty of room. I think the Bat family has shown that.
This is a very unique take.
Absolutely.
Representation for disabled people.
Some people have mentioned, like, not only was she that, but it would make sense that Batman would need that kind of character.
Yeah.
But with New 52, and by the way, I don't want to forget, she started Birds of Prey, which is an amazing series. Started by Gail Simone, had some other good writers look into it, but it was a cool thing that she did. But anyway, so with New 52, they bring her back, and a lot of people are split on it. I'd like to get y'all's take on it, but I do want to add what I thought was cool, because I didn't realize this. They didn't erase it. They incorporated into her history that she had been paralyzed, and that because of an experimental surgery, she regained the use of her leg. So they didn't take it away from her in terms of her history. I'm glad about that. But where are we on the Oracle to Batgirl thing?
I don't think it's necessary. To me, it feels like, you know how like War Machine, how he got paralyzed and they're like, "Oh, we happen to have this thing that will make you walk." It's like, okay, so the emotional stakes and everything that happened to you, it's just gone. Like, it's not gone, but it's just like, it doesn't matter anymore. Like,
yeah, if it's just fixed.
I just feel like there wasn't a need to change that. And I mean, I love Oracle as a character, and you're right. I feel like in the Bat family universe, whatever, there was a need for that type of character.
Yeah.
So just removed from how important she was and what she was able to overcome and do. But also, I mean, there were, as we'll discuss, other Batgirls that could have taken the mantle. So
Absolutely.
it was kind of, I don't know why they felt that was necessary.
It's worth mentioning, and Gail Simone, I think we love her as a writer. She was actually for Batgirl coming back outside of healing. Her argument, and it's a sort of feminist critique that's happened for a while, is that women have a tendency to be violently hurt more disproportionately to men in comics, and moreover to not recover, so to be more permanently abused.
Yeah.
And there's a great bat comparison. Batman has his back brutally broken.
Pain.
He comes back very quickly. Oracle's in the chair for a long time. So, there's nothing to say. And there's also something to be said about a person in a wheelchair, as much as they are still a person and can be still heroic and everything like that. They would also usually like to recover and be out of that chair. So we can't fetishize disability so much that we forget that people do want to heal if they have the ability. And Gail Simone mentions, well, look, we're in a world where people have cybernetic suits and genetic modification and stuff like that. The more you get these cool stuff that her friends are able to do with technology, the more it's hard to believe that Batman couldn't come up with a way to get his friend out of the chair. So there's some back and forth there. I will say I do kind of agree. I like Oracle. And I think, as we're going to see, and this will lead into y'all's Batgirls, there's plenty of awesome Batgirls kicking ass outside of chairs. And we're going to talk about it. So being in chair was a good idea.
Yeah, I just think like some of the Robins, like why there's been like another Robin comes along or anything like that, like the whole Under the Red Hood storyline makes sense. Another Robin comes about because that Robin's gone.
Sure.
Or whatever, and it progresses from there. I mean, like all of us have said, there's no short supply of Batgirls. There's no need to make her Batgirl again. I mean, she was fine where she was. I mean, she was a great character. She should have just stayed.
And I guess one good thing, she still does have all those crazy, awesome technical abilities. She's still one of the few characters that Batman recognizes as an intellectual equal, if not superior. So even while she's throwing batarangs down and jumping from rooftops, they didn't forget that what they had developed with her. Yeah. So that's at least a kind of cool saving grace that we can all appreciate. So that's Barbara Gordon. You all know her already. That's some take on it.
Did you like the Batgirl that was on screen? And the old
Alicia Silverstone? No, because she's not even, no.
No.
I mean,
whatever.
Do you think she was she trying to be Barbara Gordon? Is that what?
I don't think the story, I don't think she's Barbara Gordon in the story. No, she's not, because she's Alfred's daughter or granddaughter.
No, I mean, like emulating her. Like, she's trying. Like,
no,
I never could pinpoint which one they were trying to make.
We all know Joel Schumacher sucks, but one of the in the Bat context, not totally, but in this, and one of the reasons is that he really didn't care about the characters whatsoever. I don't mean some deep dive like we have a tendency to do, but past just their basic visual, he openly didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like he saw, like, flip through a comic. He's like, oh, I know what these people look like. I'll just make a story, make something up.
Hollywood, in certain contexts, will pay you to miss an opportunity. And that's what they did with him, with those characters. So, no, I didn't like it.
All right, so we're going to move into my favorite Batgirl, just Cassandra Cain. The second Batgirl. I'm just kidding. She's the fourth. Real one. It's really funny because you'll talk to people and you'll see stuff and it's like, she's the second Batgirl. And it's like, technically she's not. But if you look at the other ones before her, it's
they
like,
don't count.
I see why people say she's the second one. So, Cassandra Cain, she's been Batgirl. She's been Black Bat. She's had a bunch of different aliases. But to give some backstory on her, David Kane, that works with the League of Assassins or League of Shadows, depending on which book you read, they essentially were training kids to become the protector of the League of Assassins, the protector of Ra's or Raish, however you want to say
like
it.
his bodyguard, which is terrifying.
Yeah, but they were training kids, and it never worked out because the top kid would end up killing the rest of the kids.
Yikes.
Like shark babies.
It just never worked out. They're like, well, what are we going to do? So David Kane is like, well, I'll just go. It has to be genetic, so I'll just go find a woman to make a baby with, and then that will be the one that...
But what woman would be horrifyingly terrifying enough?
Funny you should say that. So while he was like in San Francisco, I think it was, of all places, he meets these two sisters. So Lady Shiva comes into play, and he recognizes, after her sister gets killed, he takes her and is like, okay, let's make a baby. Essentially, like, this is what you'll have to do for us to do it. He trains her. She becomes top fighter. I think she's actually classified as one of the best fighters.
Her and Lady Shiva are like universally acknowledged as like the best fighters in the DC universe.
In the purest sense, I think Lady Shiva, like, it may be a better just pure hand-to-hand fighter than even Batman.
Yeah.
He incorporates a lot of other shit, like, I'm going to blind you with
Yeah.
my boomerang. But
So he impregnates her and she leaves the baby with him. Because that's comics, guys. That's how you make babies and how you get a deadly baby.
if she's
made.
a murderer for hire,
Yeah.
she would probably do that. I don't know.
I just think it's like, I mean, that whole thing is really weird. It's an interesting origin for Cassandra Cain, but it's also really kind of, I think, a step back for like
Yikes.
how women are represented in comics, because it's like that was her main plot device, was to just make this baby. I'm glad she became something else from that, and
Yeah.
Lady Shiva's held in such high regard,
Yeah.
but it's like the conception of it is like, really?
Yikes.
Like, that's what you had to do? Who the fuck is David Kane to the, like, you know what I mean? Like, who is he?
I need to go back and read it. Was Lady Shiva not like wanting to produce something? Because she's also like
It was
the
part
idea-
of an agreement.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah.
And agreed.
So she leaves the baby. So he raises this kid and trains her in isolation, does not teach her how to read, speak, write, nothing. Just trains her in isolation. She is really, from that, she learns how to read body language exceptionally well. I think she's considered to be the best body reader in the entire DC universe, which helps her to predict people's movements. She doesn't speak or anything, so it's just insane to like this silent person that can like, I know what you're about to do. She doesn't say it though. Training her, I think it's really fucked up. They would play a game of flinch, and there's this panel that you could see where she's sitting there reading, and David comes behind her and shoots her just in the back. She doesn't move. She just like turns and looks at him like, oh, okay. That's how he trained her.
Yikes.
Before she was 8 years old.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's how I was trained.
Oh my God.
Really. Yeah. I was just shot. I was in the hospital. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a game of chicken. Like, you can't flinch. If I
Yeah,
shoot
yeah.
you, it's like, I don't know a person that wouldn't flinch. Like,
Cassandra.
yeah. So when Cassandra was 8, Kane took her to carry out a hit. Cassandra helped him do it. And so since she's so in tune with body language, she murders this person when she's 8 years old. But in doing that, as he's dying, she sees the pain and she feels it. It just kind of breaks her, like mentally breaks her, because she doesn't know how to speak. That's the only communication she knows. And to see like what killing does to somebody just kind of messes her up. So she leaves, she runs away, she leaves David Kane, and she's pretty much homeless for like the next 8-9 years.
Oh my.
That is such a weird coincidence, because that's Nancy Pelosi's backstory.
Oh my
That's
God.
exactly how. But she's the Speaker of the House, so
What? No, she's not.
that could be wrong.
But yeah, and then I think when she was about 17, she, of course, wanders into Gotham. Because that's the place that somebody doesn't know how to
It's safe to be an orphan in Gotham.
Well, and the paperwork had to be weird too, because like when she got arrested, it was like, "What's your main language?" Fighting. Like not. And then really, she speaks
Body.
fighting. Yeah.
Yeah. It was really cool because you were talking about Oracle, and she was Batgirl when Oracle was Oracle. So it was really cool to see that kind of
Dynamic.
yeah, the legacy characters of that kind of interact. And then I really like, one of my favorite things about, Cassandra Cain, aside from her amazing ability and how she's just, she's exceptionally well with stealth. Because she doesn't speak or anything, but is her relationship with Stephanie Brown.
Yay.
I've always loved that relationship. And they did this really cool thing. I know Kayla's going to get into it. I won't go too much into Stephanie Brown, but so to improve Stephanie Brown, when she was spoiler, her fighting abilities, Cassandra helped her with that. And for Cassandra to be better with people and to be a human being, she helped her with social things. So it was a really cool exchange.
It's a really interesting dynamic.
She's like, when you meet a new person, don't bite them.
The thing I like about Cassandra Cain is that she is so insightful and perceptive because of how she grew up, because of the body language thing. And like one of my favorite panels, I can't remember which comic it was with her. It was with the Robins, and she points to each, like a part of them on each like body. And I think she points to Tim's head, like Jason's
brains.
Yeah, exactly. Like the brains, Jason's heart, and then like just Tapstick's chest for like the soul. But I like that element of that character. It's like she almost has this supernatural ability in how she reads people.
I think people, when you talk to people, or like how people talk about her, that is her superpower. She technically kind of has a superpower because nobody else has.
It's almost like Daredevil in a way.
Yeah,
like,
she's just so in tune with people's spirit and their bodies and everything that nobody else is because of her terrible upbringing.
Yeah.
So all these characters, what would she point to if it was Damien? I wonder. Like, just she would pick up like a dead squirrel and just point.
But that actually, it's a good point you bring up Damien, because I feel like shut up. So if nobody knows at this point, Damien is one of my favorite Robins.
Yeah, I knew that.
But I think it makes sense because Cassandra's my favorite Batgirl.
Yeah.
I feel like their upbringings are very similar. They're both made to be killers that end up redeeming themselves and becoming part of the Bat family.
Oh man, Noah has stabbed me so many times.
You have a type, Noah.
The thing that's cool about this too, and you mentioned like she had a connection to Barbara, which is I think what they did with the Batgirl character at the time. They split it in two characters in a way, because you have Oracle, who's all the brains but none of the physicality, and then a character who has almost no personality, at least on out loud, and complete physicality, which is insane. And the other thing that's cool about Cassandra is that like you've had some badass Bat people before, but it's mostly been Batman, and even the Robins, even Jason, he's badass. He's not scary. Cassandra is scary.
Her costume has been even scary.
Oh, God. The one with it's just like completely black with the stitched mouth.
I think it's awesome.
It's the stuff of nightmares.
Yeah.
So she adds
she made her own suit.
Yeah. She's a spooky bat.
Yeah, I like her so much.
She's great.
Yeah, and now she's orphan, which I mean, that's kind of being like, oh, I'm gay, so my superhero name is Homo. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, we get it, you're an orphan. Like, but it might be one of those things where she's like, it's not something that defines me. This is part of me, and she's an orphan. That's her name now. But it's really cool to kind of follow her. So in Future's End, Cassandra came back as Batgirl. That was part of the League of Batgirls.
Yeah.
So not many people know.
Batgirls.
Yeah. Not many people know there was like this little sub team of Batgirls, and I always think it's really cool. That could be the TV show you were talking about. It's just League of Batgirls.
That would be cool.
Yeah, but it had everybody in it from Tiffany Fox, which is Lucius Fox is related to her. So I think that's really cool. That's all that there. So but currently in Rebirth, she is part of the Outsiders and also just with Detective Comics. So she's with that team as Orphan.
Every once in a while, a Batgirl comes along who could rip your arm off and beat you with it.
I know. I see so many like jokes and memes online about like, so Bruce or Batman, who's your favorite Robin? Cassandra Cain.
And then they like flinch. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and she is one of the only like Bat family members that has ever terrified Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Especially after like during the events of No Man's Land, because that's really where her character got fleshed out. And that's where I started reading her, and I was like, this girl is insane.
Of course, because the first time it's like, oh, this kid's very troubled. His parents were trapeze artists and they were killed. I don't know if I can do anything. And then he meets her and he's like, my parents were murderers. Like, well, put you in a cage. Yeah.
It's like her mother is literally the top martial artist and like killer in the world.
I wonder when Orphan Cassandra just like walked into Gotham, if Bruce is like, Orphan. Senses tingled and was like, I have to help this child. Where are the adoption papers?
That is really funny because like one of the first interactions is with the Bat family. It's like he knew. He has like some type of registry.
And Alfred are talking about it. It's like, she seems very comfortable in this cave. I've never seen a child take to a cave this well before.
But yeah, I think it's really cool that during the No Man's Land story arc, she saved Commissioner Gordon's life, and she was given the title of Batgirl, not just by Batman, but Commissioner Gordon approved too. So it was really funny to be like, I just imagine Batman be like, hey, you think this is a good idea? He's like, yeah, she's good.
Yeah,
she's good
right.
people.
God, Huntress must hate her. Because that's the story where Huntress tried to be Batgirl and like came up short.
Yeah.
And then because like, but this one will do. You know,
Bertinelli, man.
Yeah, she's had a rough run. More on her later.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she's been a very interesting character only because she does suffer from disadvantages and you know, disabilities, if you want to call them that, but she uses them to her strength. And I think that's a really interesting thing if we look at most of, especially the Bat women or Bat girls that have been with the Bat family, that a lot of them have been given these shortcomings or anything like that, like Oracle being paralyzed and
They all
Orphan
have
being an orphan.
They have PTSD.
Most of them, all of them do. And they always somehow that.
Oh wait, that's the Bat family generally. Sorry. Damn it.
But that's something that makes them better, and they use that to their advantage. And that's why I love Batgirl. And I feel like she always gets the short end of the stick, Cassandra Cain, because
Oh yeah, sure.
I will just
Things have been really easy for the other Batwomen.
only in representation. So with this whole, we talked about how the 80th anniversary, the 1000th issue is coming out, and I've said this to you guys a few times because it pisses me off. So they've come out with so many variant covers. There's Barbara Gordon's on one. They have all these characters on them. Cassandra Cain is not on a single cover. She's on a spread in the inside. Everybody is. Harley Quinn has more than 5.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you know that would make such a cool I'm not even joking. Like they would be such a cool comic book. Like
Cassandra and Harley?
Yeah, because they're the exact opposite.
Oh my God.
Like one won't shut up and one won't talk.
It is probably the perfect thing for Harley because Cassandra would just be like...
Some writer needs to at least get on that, like just a one shot. At least it'd be good.
Yeah, I mean, that's me gushing about her. I really wish she would have more representation and she's in it more. She's usually just used as this like creepy character that comes out of nowhere. Like I think in Young Justice recently, she was part of Tim's team. There was like spoiler her and Arrowette. They were all on the same team and they're tracking Mad Hatter. And it's like, wait, that might be Clayface, but they're not too sure. Orphan disappears and she just slices him in half. So they always use her as this kind of like creepy, like, oh, did you know that was Clayface before you cut him in half?
If the Bat family was the Breakfast Club, she would totally be the basket case, very clearly.
She would. And even as her time as Batgirl and Orphan and Black Bat, she's had, terrible things where she's had to kill her mother when she didn't know she was her mother, and then try to kill her mother when she did know she was her mother.
Oh my!
And her mother killed
her mother twice.
Yeah, and her mother killed her, but brought her back to life to prove a point. Ugh. Like she brought her on the brink of like her heart stopped, and then started it back up again. And
point proven! You're a fucking psycho. Great, cool, mom.
Yeah. So that is Cassandra Cain. I love the messed up character.
She's fantastic. She really is. Fantastic.
But she doesn't take shit, and that's why I love her because. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you say to her. She's just not going to say anything back to you. She'll just cut you in half. That's what she'll do. Yeah.
You're going to take off the Batgirl mask now, Noah. I think your part's done. Okay.
Oh, yes. Now we get to talk about the most, recent... Her mantle's been stripped, so I don't even know if I could say that properly. But Stephanie Brown. I feel like...
The latest main...
Yeah, exactly. Batgirl, like the newest one to take on the mantle, even though she's not currently Batgirl. And I feel like people know, a lot about Barbara, but less about Cassandra and less about Stephanie. But Stephanie has a very, very interesting just like history in terms of all of the mantles that she's donned. She was introduced the same year I was born, 1992.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she's a pretty recent comic book character in general. And she was introduced as Spoiler. She went to Robin in 2004, was Robin for 2 years, actually a couple more than that. In 2009, she became Batgirl. But she is the daughter of the criminal Clue Master, who's kind of like a third-rate villain in Gotham. But she became Spoiler to spoil her father's plans. So
I've always loved that's why her name is.
Spoiler.
Yeah, Jared asked me, he's like, why is her name Spoiler? I'm like, just wait.
Yeah, no, it's so funny.
Wait, so he's the Clue Master?
Yeah.
Was he aware that there's a Riddler?
Yep.
Or a Taskmaster?
That's why he's like third-rate, third-string villain in Gotham.
He's like the E list.
But but, Stephanie would leave clues for Batman to find to lead him to her father.
So he wasn't even the master of clues?
Nope.
No.
He was undone by clues.
No.
She was better at it.
Yep.
She spoiled it.
Live by the clue, die by the clue. That's what I say.
But yes, no, I love that about her origin story. There's not a lot of complexity there, though. She just basically was introduced as a character to be the daughter of one of the villains. That was the main focus of the comic book series, but she went over so well with the fans that they brought her back.
Yeah.
As spoiler.
It's kind of an Artemis kind of thing, if you're familiar with Young Justice.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. It's very reminiscent of Artemis. And then so Batman is kind of like, I really wish you would stop. Because, you're not trained properly. And this is just getting
Which is a
way.
really interesting dynamic, I think, because she keeps doing it and he's like, no.
Yeah, I mean, she's an amateur, quote unquote, crime fighter, and that makes Batman a little uncomfortable. But she really clicks with Tim Drake. I know, and so they kind of begin a flirtation, a relationship. And Tim knows who she is, and she's frustrated at the beginning because she was like at first like, okay, yeah, that boy's cute. I'll date you. But then the fact that she doesn't know who he is just starts driving her crazy. And she's like, why won't you tell me? You know who I am.
The spoiled got spoiled.
But no,
the spoiler has become the spoilee.
She was known for, after a couple of years, for being involved in a very high-profile teen pregnancy storyline, where she got pregnant from her ex-boyfriend. They weren't together anymore, and then so she had to deal with what to do. And Tim was there for her throughout that time, and she ended up giving the baby up for adoption. It was hard, but that got a lot of attention at the time because it really hadn't been done in comics before, especially on the teen side.
Oh, that kid's coming back, by the way. If there was ever a time for later on, that kid's going to be somewhere. Yeah.
But she was Robin for a while, which I thought was really cool. The only female to be Batgirl and Robin, and the only female Robin that counts. Carrie Kelly, sorry. She doesn't count.
Frank Miller's going to be so mad when he listens to this episode.
If there was a character to be so ill-prepared to be any part of the Bat family, it's definitely Carrie Kelly. She had a slingshot, for crying out loud.
She's just so obnoxious. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I did want to point out, too, that when you were like, Batman said, he was like, you're just an amateur, you're not prepared. It's like, yeah, were none of the orphans that you just picked up, they weren't prepared.
I don't think he was just like, I've only adopted black-haired, blue-eyed men. I don't know if I want to adopt another child.
Batman has a type.
I've got a rule. And OCD, clearly.
But she wasn't Robin for very long. The same year that she donned the cowl, she was killed. And the way Stephanie Brown was killed was super controversial. And I kind of want to read a couple of quotes about it. But basically, she was tortured to death.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty gruesome. By Black Mask, it was the villain at the time that Batman was
crazy.
I don't even like him.
Yeah, I know. And she received no memorial in the Batcave, so the fans were like, "What was going on with that?" When the executives were asked about it, they were like, "Oh, well, that was just, she became Robin just to play a trick on the readers because we knew that she was going to die in War Games," which was the storyline that Black Mask was. And Dan Dido, the executive producer at the time, during a panel was like, she was never actually Robin, even though several times at the panel they were talking about her as Robin.
I mean, I think that's insane to even say because it's like, if you're going to count Helena Bertinelli, and all these people that wore the cowl or anything for this short amount of time, it's like, how are you not going to count this?
Well, and people would point to a specific scene in the comics where Alfred asks Bruce, was this a temporary thing? From the onset, were you just making Stephanie Robin to lure Tim back? And Batman didn't answer, but then when Stephanie's dying, she asks, was I ever really Robin? And Batman says, of course you were.
Yeah.
So...
So Batman himself says...
Yeah, it'd be dumb to dispute that, honestly.
Yeah. Well, that's why it was such a big controversy. People were like, why? This makes no sense.
They're like, she's not Robin. But Man did once dress up like Robin as a practical joke. So he counts. But she does... Yeah, that's really stupid.
Well, she was gone for 4 years, which is a relatively short time in comic book life. And came back... Psych! She wasn't really dead. And Bruce suspected it the whole time. Because comics.
His detective skills are great.
But she came back as Batgirl.
Hell yeah.
I think her costume for Batgirl is personally my favorite, with the purple down the side and everything.
Very cool.
I love her look. And And then she was replaced by Barbara in the New 52 show. That was kind of taken from her. But the New 52 also, or was it Rebirth? I can't remember now. Kind of put her back at the beginning of her career. So the most recent versions of Stephanie Brown have been spoilers. So they kind of just like rewound her a little bit and put her back at the beginning of her crime fighting career. And she still has that flirtation with Tim. She was obviously very upset when Tim died.
That really hit me too in Rebirth, because she's in Detective Comics, and I like detective comics because that's where they put all the Bat characters that they don't know what to do with or don't have their own line.
They'll make appearances and stuff.
Yeah, like they're not in the major story right now.
Yeah,
they'll be in and out, but I mean, on that team, it's like Tim Drake, Spoiler, Orphan, Batwoman now, and Batman and Clayface. So
Signal.
He signals on, but he has his own storyline, and these characters don't. But yeah, it is really, it's when that happened, you really got to see Stephanie super upset.
Her relationship with Tim is obviously one of the most interesting, along with her relationship with her father, Cluemaster, because that's yikes. But what I like a lot about Stephanie Brown, and she stands out a lot from the other Batgirls, is that she's allowed to be a teenage girl, and she acts that way. She's very, very temperamental. She and Tim get into the silliest fights because she's jealous, or you know what I mean? So like, I feel Stephanie Brown is interesting because in terms of the Bat family, she like really awful things have happened to her, but she just very much feels like a real person.
She's relatable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She's like a real teenage girl doing these things. So,
and I think that's a really cool dynamic to have, and something that should be done. I mean, because a librarian, like you were talking about, like that's like, okay, that's cool, but like to have somebody like kind of fawning after a boy, and then like actually building on top of that, and like
being all emotional, like, gosh, damn it, you don't get it. I heard what you said about that Instagram penguin. She just like kicks him in the face.
There is a scene, because I had mentioned earlier that Cassandra and Spoiler are really, really close. And when Tim died in Rebirth, there was this really cool scene where Stephanie's crying and she's at her apartment or whatever, and she's really upset, and everybody's trying to console her, and it's not happening for her. She's just isolating herself. And then, but you see Orphan, or Cassandra, outside on the next rooftop. She's just watching over her for like days, and she doesn't say anything, but she feels safe because she knows,
like, she knows to give her space, but she wants to be there for her.
But that's how she conveys, like, hey, I'm here for you. I just think it's so sweet. I love that relationship.
I think there's something cool too about the way that the Bat family has worked with Robin and with Batgirl, how characters get to come in and take up that mantle, and then when they leave it, they have to find their place as kind of individuals outside of that. And they've often been, I'd say more often, successful than not.
Yeah.
They've been more successful outside of like the Batgirl and Robin, aspect. And I think that's always interesting.
Yeah. Because like Spoiler is a legitimate character unto herself. She doesn't need to be Batgirl to work.
Yeah.
I'm not saying she should have been replaced, but I'm just saying it legitimate. Same thing I think with Jason Todd and Nightwing obviously is the like paragon of that. So yeah, it's a real cool thing they've done.
Yeah. The Batgirls are just most of the time better.
I mean, obviously, they don't get enough attention, and I feel like people don't know a lot about Stephanie. She's kind of changed mantles a lot, but I feel like she's really refreshing, especially in the Bat family context. So,
and I think that it goes to show, like, even just the ones that we've talked about, I mean, they're just so different. Every single one of them. I mean, a lot of the Robins have kind of either had like the same little origin, or like kind of similar in some ways, but are distinguished in others. But I mean, the amount of stuff that like the Batgirls went through consistently, it's like, geez. Like,
I think of it as the Green Lantern effect, which is you get a bunch of characters that have the same powers and the same look, but their personalities are so different. They still work as very discernible characters.
Yeah.
I think very much the same here.
Yeah. All right. Comic book recommendation time.
Whoop, whoop.
So I will recommend, it's not solely a Cassandra Cain story, but it's the beginning of her becoming Batgirl. And personally, it's one of my favorite Batman stories. It's Batman No Man's Land. And here's a cheat. You can read the novel of it, because that's what I did. I originally read the novel because I think there's about 80 issues, single issues that go into the story.
Damn.
There's 5 volumes that are collected now. There's a lot that goes into this. But this is where Cassandra Cain becomes Batgirl with the blessing of Jim Gordon, and Oracle's in it, and it's really good.
This is my first Batman, actually.
Yeah.
I've seen the compendiums of No Man's Land with all of them collected. I'm like, that's big.
Yeah, to give you kind of very small, what it's about to get you excited to read it is giant earthquake hits Gotham, pretty much shuts it off from the rest of the world. Government declares it a no man's land. What is Gotham filled with? Supervillains. So they all kind of
run amok.
Yeah, essentially they all have their like little
and Batman
gang areas.
That reminds me of Arkham City.
It very heavily influenced by this story.
Yeah.
But it's really good. And there are about 50,000 writers and 10,000 artists. So I will just name a few: Paul Dini, Greg Rucka, Kelly Puckett, just to name a few. So get it, read it. Kayla?
Yes. So I'm going to recommend Red Robin Collision. It's written by Christopher Yost and Marcus Tu. It's in the Red Robin's book, issues 9 through 12, if you just want to collect them that way. But basically, the beginning of the Red Robin story is Tim is convinced that Bruce is alive post-Final Crisis. And,
I was like, he's always been like,
yeah. Yeah. So, and none of the Bat family believes him. They kind of want to grieve and move on. So Dick and Stephanie are very concerned about Tim and are like, hey, buddy, you want to talk to us? Tim just throws a fit and just leaves and tries to find evidence that Bruce is alive. And Collision takes place when he comes back. And Stephanie's like, so did you find your proof? He's like, well, oh, look, Ra's al Ghul's attacking people. And then him and Stephanie basically team up and take on the League of Assassins.
Which is such a cool team up. And to take on.
I like Red Robin's book, too. So I'm just like, this is her interacting with Tim, and I just love the story. So,
so Noah did an entire gigantic... epic run, like crossover that lasted 9 years. I'm gonna do a single issue.
Hey, I said there was a book.
No, you're absolutely right.
It's a novelization.
It is funny that you did something big and it's as small as it gets. But it's a story about Barbara Gordon. It's from The Brave and the Bold, Volume 3, number 33. It's not that hard to find because it's a relatively well-received kind of classic moment. It's written by J. Michael Straczynski, and the artist is Jesus Says, or Jesus Says. How you pronounce it, but it's cool. It's Wonder Woman and Zatanna taking Barbara out for a night in the town, and you'll find out
That's
why.
Amazing.
Yeah, that alone is wonderful.
I want a series with that.
I agree. It would be a great series. But the reason they take her out is such a powerful moment. It's one of the best single issue comic stories I've read in a long time, and I heavily recommend it. So I think you'll like it a lot.
Nice.
That is the Batgirls.
Batgirl's important.
Go read them. We love the Robins, but please.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at the Fantom Zone Pod for more podcast updates.
Trump is already old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And most of these presidents have kind of been young.
So he should look like he stared into the Ark of the Covenant, but he's not. But the irony is that his presidency is so stressful, the rest of us are aging rapidly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm 23. Do you understand what I'm saying?